We often think of history as a collection of facts, but what if one of the most pivotal documents in world history was less a factual report and more a masterclass in marketing? Today, we're dissecting the 1493 letter of Christopher Columbus, a piece of paper that literally changed the map of the world. This wasn't just a travel diary. It was a carefully crafted pitch to secure power, wealth, and his next big project. Let's uncover the spin behind the story. After his first voyage, Columbus was in a precarious position. He had spent years begging European courts for funding, only to be rejected by experts who correctly believed he had miscalculated the size of the Earth, hadn't found the rich markets of Asia he'd promised, and the cost of the expedition was immense. So, he had to prove it was all worth it. His solution, a letter addressed to the Spanish royal court. This document was his one shot to turn a questionable venture into a spectacular triumph. It was a PR campaign designed to silence his doubters and convince his patrons, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, that they had made the investment of a lifetime. A key part of Columbus's strategy was how he described the indigenous people he encountered. The Taíno he needed to present the new world as a land ripe for the taking, and his portrayal of its inhabitants was central to this. He described them as incredibly gentle and timid, noting they had no iron weapons and were destitute of arms. He even said a few of his men could conquer the entire population. This wasn't just an observation, it was a calculated message to the crown. Colonization would be easy and require minimal military effort. He painted a picture of a passive, non-threatening people, ready to be subjected to Spanish rule. Next, Columbus amplified their generosity to an almost unbelievable degree. He claimed the Taíno were exceedingly liberal with all they have, happily trading valuable resources like gold and cotton for worthless trifles. Imagine telling your investors that you found people willing to give you gold for broken pieces of glass and old shoelace tips. It sounds too good to be true because it probably was. This wasn't a description of fair trade. It was a sales pitch highlighting just how exploitable these new subjects were. He was essentially telling the monarchs, the resources are there for the taking, and the locals will practically give them to us for free. To seal the deal, Columbus appealed directly to the religious fervor of Ferdinand and Isabella, who were devout Catholic monarchs. He repeatedly emphasized how easily the Taíno could become Christians and be converted to the holy faith of Christ. He presented them as a blank slate, without any organized religion of their own, just waiting to be saved. This narrative transformed the voyage from a risky commercial enterprise into a divine mission. It framed the conquest not as an invasion, but as a holy duty to spread Christianity. This god, part of the god, gold, and glory. Trio was a powerful motivator for the Spanish crown, and added a layer of moral justification to the entire colonial project. Of course, the most crucial element of his pitch was gold. Riches were the ultimate proof of success. Columbus knew he had to deliver on the promise of wealth to justify the voyage's cost and risk. So, he focused heavily on any sign of it. He reported seeing Taíno people wearing small gold ornaments, like nose rings. While these were likely small, personal items, Columbus presented them as undeniable proof of vast, untapped gold mines. He wasn't just reporting what he saw. He was using these small pieces of jewelry as a teaser for the immense fortune he claimed was just waiting to be discovered. From there, his claims escalated dramatically. He didn't just suggest there was gold. He made bold, almost fantastical promises. He declared that the island of Hispaniola, in particular, abounds in various kinds of species, gold and metals. He went as far as to promise the monarchs that, from this one island alone, he could give them as much gold as they desire. This was a massive exaggeration, designed to ignite the imaginations and ambitions of his royal backers. He was no longer a humble explorer. He was a salesman, promising an infinite return on their investment. It was already a high-stakes gamble, but it was exactly what the court wanted to hear. Even a potential disaster was spun into a positive. When his flagship, the Santa Maria, wrecked on the coast of Hispaniola on Christmas Day, could have been the end of the story. Instead, Columbus turned it into a sign of divine favor. He wrote that the local chief, or cacique, was so helpful and generous after the wreck, offering his people to help salvage the ship and showering the Spaniards with gold. that it was clearly providential. He framed the shipwreck as God's will, showing him the perfect spot to establish the first European settlement in the Americas, which he named La Navidad. What was a logistical failure became a divine endorsement of his mission to stay. So, what was the ultimate goal of this meticulously crafted letter? It was all about vindication and securing more funding. This letter was Columbus' triumphant, I told you so, to every expert and court official who had dismissed him. He opened the letter by announcing the glorious success that our Lord has given me in my voyage, framing his discoveries not as a result of a navigational error, but as a divinely ordained victory. The descriptions of docile natives, endless gold, and a perfect place to build a fort were all pieces of a powerful argument designed for one purpose: to get him more ships and more men, and it worked. Brilliantly. The letter was a sensation. It was quickly printed and distributed across Europe, becoming one of the first international bestsellers. It completely silenced his critics and created a frenzy of excitement about the newly discovered lands. The Spanish monarchs were convinced. The result? Columbus was granted a second voyage in 1493, and this one was no small scouting mission. It was a massive colonizing force of 17 ships and over 1,200 men, ready to exploit the paradise Columbus had so vividly described. The letter wasn't just a report, it was the catalyst for the large-scale European colonization of the Americas. Interestingly, the letter that launched this next phase of exploration didn't even contain all of Columbus's discoveries from that era. For example, his encounter with the island of Jamaica, which the Taíno called didn't happen until his second voyage, in May of 1494. This was over a year after the 1493 letter had already cemented his legacy and secured his funding. It shows how a single, persuasive document could set in motion a chain of events that would expand an empire and forever alter the course of history for millions of people. In the end, Columbus's 1493 letter stands as a powerful testament to the power of narrative. It was a document that blended observation with strategic exaggeration, fact with wishful thinking, all to achieve a specific goal. By portraying the Americas as a land of gentle people and limitless gold, ready for conversion and conquest, Columbus crafted the perfect argument to fuel his ambitions and the empire's greed. It teaches us that when we look at historical documents, we must always ask, who wrote this and what did they want? Because sometimes, the story being told is more important than the facts on the ground. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into one of history's most influential documents. If you found this exploration of historical spin fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that looks beyond the headlines of the past. Let us know in the comments what other historical documents you think deserve a closer look. We'll see you in the next video, where we will talk about Columbus' bid for survival on Jamaica. He had to use the power of the moon god.